On behalf of my man, Vaughn Allen, we want to thank you for your support. Let's go.
I'd been under the weather for the last several days, so wasn't doing much. I had time to watch the Dynasty. That documentary was such a missed opportunity. So how do you have that many Patriots to come on? I mean, they brought out Patriots that I thought were dead. Okay, guys that you know, did they have Brandon Lloyd on there? I mean, they were bringing guys out from the dead, right? Like you forgot about them. And you had all these dudes, and that's the product you put out. Every single episode was about drama. Every episode was about bullshit. Stuff that didn't matter. Stuff that was irrelevant. And the people who made the documentary, which worked for Robert Kraft, which is funny, each episode actually reminded me of how a Patriots hater would make a documentary. So how you would view how Tom took over for Drew Bledsoe, or how you would view Spygate, or how you would view Deflategate, or the Aaron Hernandez situation, or the end of the Patriots dynasty, the breakup or whatever. It was handled from a hater's point of view, to be quite honest with you. How do you dedicate an entire episode to Spygate? One of the most overblown, overrated, stupid-ass situations that's ever been conceived by any sports league ever. And if you watch that episode, you would think that they were like guilty of some serious crime or something. All in order to get Belichick. Now, I'm no friend to Belichick right now. Okay, I think he's being ridiculous. But that doesn't mean I'm completely lost all ability to see how things really are, and it just one thing doesn't have anything to do with the other, you know. My problems with him at the end of Brady's career, basically, 2014 and after, and my issues with him now, how he's acting, have nothing to do with Spygate and how I feel about Spygate. So that's not changed. My opinions never changed about that. My views never changed, and the facts have never changed. But they did it, and they made it look like how you would do it if you were a Jets fan making that documentary. It was unbelievable. No argument, no rebuttal to the idiocy. Even when they showed the Belichick, remember the famous interview with Belichick on maybe it was 60 Minutes or something? Belichick explained a lot of it. He explained how absurd a lot of it was. They cut that out. All they did was keep the part where Belichick said, "Well, yeah, and I was wrong, and I'm guilty, or I'm guilty of that." But guilty of what? Exactly. You see, they don't explain that. Because in that interview, he did explain the situation. And then you would understand more about how stupid this was and how overblown it was. They were so determined to destroy Belichick that they made our entire team look like idiots. And you got to remember, just because if you want to lay it at the feet of Bill, that's fine, okay? It was his program, right? Okay. But when you do that and you don't have a rebuttal of any kind at all, that attaches to everybody. That's the players, okay? That's the other coaches. That's the owner. What are you doing? You're sitting there making yourself look stupid. You know, it's unbelievable. It was so dumb. So dumb. It was just, it's like shooting yourself in the head as long as the bullet kills the other guy too. It's so dumb. I couldn't believe it. There was no glory in it. None of the great things that happened. It would show it here and there, but it wouldn't show the truth. It wouldn't show the details. And you could say, well, we've seen that in other documentaries. But the problem is that Kraft had access to the video and sideline stuff and all that nobody else has. And nobody, you know, so he had an opportunity to really show us some insights into those old games and never even tried it. The only time he would bring out some of that stuff is to help with the narrative of Belichick sucks. I've never seen such self-destruction. It wasn't needed. It wasn't necessary to go after Belichick in this. It wasn't necessary. The dude is already trying to destroy his legacy on his own. You didn't need to do that, you know? But I know Kraft is pissed off. He's pissed off, and he's admitted it. That Belichick told him that Tom couldn't play anymore. And Kraft's thinking was, if Tom doesn't have much time left, but Belichick can continue to coach another decade. And that was his thinking. So he went along with it. Okay, that was your decision. That's fine. A lot of people, on the outside would understand it. We don't understand it because we knew Tom wasn't done. But I can see how a lot of people would think that because history says that he was done. Like, if you look at any other instance in history, it says he was. But we knew. We knew. But Kraft, you made that decision, dude. You allowed it. So stick by it. Stick by it. Don't sit there and make a 10-hour documentary to try to destroy the other guy because you made the decision to let Tom go. Because Tom goes nowhere without you. You have to approve it. Just accept that you made the decision. You tried to make what you thought the logical choice was, and that's it. And it backfired. And Tom went and won a Super Bowl, and the Patriots went into oblivion. You chose poorly. Like in the Indiana Jones movie. You chose poorly. The Aaron Hernandez thing, right? If you watched that and you didn't know, let's say you're not a Pats fan, you didn't follow everything that was going on back then, and you just watched that episode, what would you think? No, answer me. Answer me in the chat. What would you think? Now, put yourself in, you don't know nothing, you don't know anything about it the way you do as a Patriots fan, but you're an outsider and you're wanting to know more about it. And you watch that episode with Aaron Hernandez, what would you think? What would you walk away from that episode thinking about Belichick? You would think that Belichick was some kind of accessory to Aaron Hernandez, everything that Aaron Hernandez has ever done. Like, what you would get the vibe, right? You would get the vibe that Belichick somehow knew that Aaron Hernandez was a freaking murderer, okay, or a wannabe murderer, and that he's the one that dropped the ball and he's the one that's responsible because they even put in this little thing like, oh, they wanted to trade Aaron or something about trading Aaron or cutting him or whatever, and Belichick didn't want to do that. The implications are there, okay? I thought that was so freaking disgusting, dude. That was bad. That was awful. And if I was any player for the Patriots from that time, and after that documentary came out, I would have called everybody associated with that documentary that made it and said, "What the are you doing? What do you think you're doing?" To imply that anybody in the organization is to blame or is at fault for what Aaron Hernandez did and for what he is ridiculous. There is no way to know that someone would do something like that. But being odd is not enough to know that someone's going to murder somebody. You know? It's just not. There are a lot of weird people in the NFL. A lot of weirdos. Even way weirder than Aaron was acting. You think that he's just the same as any other troubled NFL player. How are you going to know the difference? Nobody could have anticipated what happened. Irie says that would be like blaming the Chiefs for Javon Belcher. It's just stupid. How would you know? We're talking about extreme stuff. We're talking about murdering someone. The only way you would know is if they were specifically saying things like that. Other than that, you would just see it as just some guy being a dumbass, talking goofy and being weird, which he was doing that. He was being weird. I mean, if anything, you probably saw that he was like bisexual, by the way he acted, by the things he said and stuff. But I know that Brady would yell at him in practice. But again, that doesn't tell you that someone's a murderer, does it? So that was pretty disgusting, the way they did that. I thought that was just low. That was really low, man. And just it's too much dedicated to it. You didn't need a whole episode for Aaron Hernandez. It's a sucky situation, right? He's one of the greatest players at his position that I've ever seen. He would have been a Hall of Famer. He was a different player than Gronk. But he was as productive as Gronk. And the things they could have done together, all of that whole group. So imagine in 2014, if Aaron was on the team. Imagine 2015. What would have happened in 2015? Would we have won that game in Denver if Aaron was on the team? What about 2017? Do we win that Super Bowl despite the defensive letdown? Do we just keep scoring so much that it doesn't matter? We'll never know, of course. But I'm saying that look what could have been. Does Aaron follow Gronk and Tom to Tampa Bay? I know for a fact he would have been a Hall of Fame player. But the sky's the limit there, right? No, it was about getting Belichick. They didn't even talk about the 2011 season. They didn't talk about the 2010 MVP year for Tom, where he's unanimous MVP. They didn't even go through that. They just wanted to get through to the drama. Boy, when they named it Dynasty, they literally meant Dynasty, the soap opera, right? And then they went and they did a whole episode of Deflategate. Imagine doing a whole episode on something so freaking stupid. Something that wasn't real, something that is dumb, it doesn't matter, had nothing to do with anything. And you devote a whole episode to that. That's great. That's awesome. Nice job. You know. And then they wanted to get to the real shit, the stuff they really wanted to show, which was the breakup, the ending there. Like I said, there's no glory. There's no glory in it. There, you know, the dynasty, the things that was achieved over that 20-year span. It's there and then it's not there. Yeah, John Thomas Chavez says, if you're not getting yelled at Brady in practice, something's probably wrong. Yeah, this was different. This wasn't because you lined up wrong or something. He was yelling at Aaron like on a personal level, like when Aaron wasn't even involved in the practice. And, you know, yelling at him for like personal stuff that he was doing around the area and stuff. It's a different type of thing, which was kind of like, what the hell's going on here? What's up with this guy? That's true, Phil. You can watch it for that, but you can skip the Spygate episode. You can skip the Deflategate episode. You can skip the Aaron Hernandez episode. It's all about that crap. There's nothing interesting, but the other episodes are pretty. You know, they're pretty cool for the footage, but even in that's not told very well. It's just weird how it's done. It's dark. It's depressing. You know, even with the Drew Bledsoe thing, the way they made it seem. Again, they even made Belichick look like a piece of crap. At the same time, Belichick making the decision to keep Brady, which is the greatest decision ever. But even that, they laid at Belichick's feet to make him look bad, to make it look like he mistreated Drew and he treated Drew like garbage. But without that decision, we don't have anything. But even that, they turned it. That's the first episode, and they tried to do that. It just did not seem like it was made by pro-Patriots people when it was. That's what's shocking, you know. Of course, Belichick didn't do himself any favors, and he never does. He never does himself any favors. And in the interview, he wouldn't answer any questions. He was always difficult and short and had an attitude. So when you're like that and you don't talk, you don't give anything, and then people paint a narrative around you, that's what happens. And it looks legit, it looks real, and people think that, you know, but it's how it is.
Bon, Alan. on sports.